Welcome to the Sparky Coach podcast. This platform was built by Sparkies for Sparkies. We simply exist to make business owners more profitable, or businesses more profitable and more predictable. So we want to work with people that work hard because we love working hard too, that work smart because you got to be on top of the business, people that are kind because no one likes a dickhead. Am I right? People who want results because that's what we're here for, right? And people who want to be part of a like-minded community. So if you're interested in hearing more about the platform, please reach out and enjoy the podcast. I'm not saying it was your fault, although you could have done more. Finish it with me. You're so naive. What a song. The Kooks. Naive. This title of the podcast is You're So Naive, and go with me here. This is not a stab. This is an inspirational. We're going to go through a few things today about how, I guess, welcome to 2026. And we're going to go through how do you have the best 2026? And it's so unbelievably interesting when it comes to goal setting. You know, there's so much noise out there. There's so much inspiration out there. There's so much BS out there. There's so much fluff out there. There's so much good stuff out there. And, I was even speaking to someone the other day and I don't want to name names. I will not name names. I shall not name names. This is he or maybe she who shall not be named. This is Voldemort style. And he was like, oh, what sort of revenue are you guys doing? Obviously, we run Sparky Coach and Sparky Admin. And he's like, what sort of revenue you guys doing? And I told him, and he's like, let's double it. and a part of me was so just like, you don't even know if the product's good. And you're telling me to double it? Double what? Like double my output, my working hours, my profit? What if there's no profit? What if there's heaps of profit? What if I double it and I can't sustain the growth? What if I'm doubling poo? Then I just got twice as much poo. What if I'm doubling gold? Then I got twice as much gold. And it kind of left me in this weird state of one, feeling super inspired and oh, cool, let's double it. And I like to be fully transparent. I feel the foundations of Sparky Coach and Sparky Admin can scale. And this is me talking, obviously, like just as a business owner, can scale, which I feel incredibly confident about. But also, to shoot to the moon too quickly would be too hard. Like it would be too unsustainable. It would be too crazy. It's anyone that's grown a business really, really quickly, it will probably, not all the time, but a lot of times will definitely regret it, especially when you're selling labor and materials in the service industry, what you're doing as a business owner. If you're selling a product, yes, the product still needs to be manufactured, of course. But if you're selling, let's say you're selling an online course and you're really, really confident in the course and it's pretty self-sufficient and you sell it for $1,000 and you have nothing to do with the course, it's sold online and it goes out there 100%. You could triple that. You could boost to the moon and back through Jot Form, through Asana, back through someone's soul and straight into their inbox, right? Do whatever you want. If you're doubling a product where you have key man or key person risk, that's incredibly difficult. If you're doubling a product where you're selling other people's time and materials, and that's what you're doing as an electrician, you're selling skilled time and materials. I can't just go and sell someone Elodie's time or Phoenix and Jasper. Imagine Elodie, that's my wife, by the way. Shout out to my wife. Elodie, Phoenix, and Jasper. Imagine I send my wife. Imagine if I send my wife, my 8-year-old son and 6-year-old son to someone's job to do some electrical work. They're unlicensed, unprofessional, and the rest. Crazy. You can't you are selling skilled labor and good materials, and that has to stand the test of time. So you're in a bit of a sort of niche market. To double it would be to go from 200 to 400 hours, and that's maybe 5 staff to 10 staff. Where are you going to find those other 5 staff? Can you find five staff in a year? It just presents a whole scroll list of questions. But talking about being naive today, and it's so interesting because I feel like the definition of naive, this is a bit, what's the word? This is a bit wedding speaky of me. It's a bit of a bridesmaid speech. You know when they always go to the definition first? The definition of marriage is the definition of naive. says it's sort of twofold. This is incredibly important as we dive into it. A person or action showing a lack of experience, wisdom, or judgment. So it's super interesting. A person or action showing a lack of experience, wisdom, or judgment. So it's the overarching thought here is you can achieve a lot more in 5 years than you think and a lot less in 1 year than you think, generally speaking. You can achieve a lot in 5 or 10 year plan and you can achieve probably not as much as what you think in 1 year. But goal setting presents this interesting conundrum where you get these visionaries or you get these inspirational people going like, just double it, like double your bicep size, you know, increase those calf muscles. Whatever, increase your protein intake, increase it double what? Like, but you get these people, you get insecurity in twofold with goal setting. If you get the insecurity of someone needing to prove themselves to someone, going, I'm going to double, I'm going to get to 10 staff this year, I'm going to get to 4 staff this year, I'm going to get to 20 staff this year, whatever, I'm going to double it, just double it, I'm going to double it, I'm going in on red being the business. So insecurity gets presented as I need to prove myself through my business. And you are not your business. Like you might work in your business, but your business doesn't define who you are as a person, right? Who you are as a person is completely separate of the business. You need to remove yourself from that and see yourself as a employee. That's honestly probably a podcast for another time. But goal setting presents an interesting conundrum of like, let's double it. Or the other definition of naive is of a person that's natural and unaffected, innocent. And this is going to use in a sentence. Andy had a sweet, naive look when he smiled. It's innocent, it's blasé, it's unaffected. So goal setting presents a conundrum where you've got your person A, and I'm putting typical people in here, but going person A going like, to the moon, and you got person B just want to exist, just want to go surfing at 4 o'clock. I don't really know. I'm gonna go wherever the wind blows. I might travel in 2 years. I might not. I don't really know. Well, I don't know what the future is, and you get those people, and typically they're just not saying they're not driven, but they might not. They might have a plan. And I think it was the great French writer Antoine. I'm sure I said that name wrong, but you know, French. I guess my name's a little bit French, Gregory. But he said, a goal without a plan is just a wish. So I want to encourage two people. I want to encourage the first person. If you're listening to this and you've set these huge and lofty goals and you look back and you've got a track record of setting huge and lofty goals that you're not sort of hitting like year to year, I want to encourage that person. Maybe set a 5-year plan because you can achieve a whole lot in 5 years. So a great example of that person is I want to get to 10 staff this year. And you might look at that and that might be double. You might have 5 staff at the moment, want to get to 10. Now, that's a huge goal. Is it achievable? I guess it's going to depend on what the foundations are. There's so many variables of the foundations of your electrical business, the type of work, the style of work. Do you need super skilled people for service and maintenance jobs? Generally speaking, not all the time, but generally speaking, the smaller the job, the more skilled the person would want to be or need to be or have to be. Great example here. If you're running cable tray for 400 meters like your Kathy Freeman, just pretty simple stuff. Like you can get an average or good person to do that with an average or good apprentice. And then it might not be as fast, but they're going to be able to get the job done. But if you send that average tradie and average apprentice team to a really in-depth service and maintenance job that requires a whole lot of work, that requires a whole lot of risk, that requires a whole lot of something, there's just a huge risk in that job. So it's just interesting to sort of check the metrics. But yeah, so going into it and you're like, if you're insecure, generally speaking, you'll either sell yourself too short or boost yourself to the moon. So I'm speaking to the first person who wants to double from 5 to 10. And they are sitting there thinking, I'm going to do it all this year. 2026, baby. They got a 2026 tattoo in their lower back. Next to their, what are they going to get? Like a Dragon Ball Z tattoo or something crazy. So you're talking to that person. I'm like, maybe tone it back. And maybe if you hired a tradie apprentice team every year for 3 years or 5 years, you would get to your goal. It might be a bit slower. It might be a bit more organic, but it's going to be probably better you would suggest, right? It's going to be better if your foundations are set. It's good. If the foundations are not set, it's very bad. So talking to one person, maybe slow down and put a 5-year plan together. Just slow down, calm down. The second person I'm talking to is the she'll be right, mate person. Yeah, sweet. Whatever. I'm just gonna exist. I'm gonna go with the breeze, and I don't really have a plan. And I just want to encourage that person. You can achieve a lot. You can achieve a lot in 5 years. You can achieve a lot in 5 years. You can achieve a lot in 12 months. And it's crazy to think when you write something down and you actually, you got your goal. And like I said before, a goal without a plan is just a wish. When you write your goal down, I want to be at this. I want to be here. I want to be doing this. All of a sudden you got this goal, and now you can put some steps in place to get to that goal. So picture it like the goal being the top of the mountain, and I'm going to climb that mountain. And then, how am I going to do that? Oh, sweet. I'm going to set a time, set a date, pick who I'm going to go with, and make sure the weather's good, and then I'm going to roll up the mountain, 1 foot after the other, 1 step at a time, calculated. It's been thought about, and that's going to be executed. So I'm talking to those two different people. Maybe you need to scale it back, and maybe you need to scale it up. And maybe you need a bit of column A, a bit of column B. And goal setting is so interesting when you enter the metric of insecurity. Am I really worried about what people think? Do I have a fear of success, or do I have a fear of failure? And that's going to affect the goals you put in place, because you're going to be seeing it through your lens. So I'd encourage you to get around someone. Maybe you've got a small group of people, maybe you've got business coaching, maybe you've got a really amazing partner and family, whatever, but get around some people and flesh out some goals that are optimistic, that you need to push for, and that you can start to get a little plan. So I'm going to go through 4 tips today of how to not be naive with goal setting, and how to not just be like, let's go 2026, baby, or how not to be like, just another year. Because we don't just want to have another year, and we don't want to have another year where we set these huge and lofty goals and we just sort of get let down. So it's really interesting. I'm going to pull this book out. This book, Let My People Go Surfing. I'm holding this up if you're watching on Spotify or YouTube. Shout out to the watchers. Currently rereading this book. It's a great book of business acumen, where business has not necessarily been done in the correct, I say this in inverted commas, like Dr. Evil says, laser, in the correct sort of way. He's done it his way, or they've done it their way, because he's with his partner, Melinda. But he said this, this is so interesting. Basically, they had this huge growth, and they almost lost the whole thing. So a lot of times when someone grows something really quickly, it can grow in an unsustainable fashion. It can grow to a point where what was profitable is no longer profitable. That's really interesting itself. And it might look good on paper. I've got 20 staff, I've got 40 staff, I've got 50 staff. Oh, I work for that client. It might look really good on paper, but behind the scenes, in terms of your profit loss sheet and your balance sheet, all this kind of stuff, like, it might not be fantastic. So I love this. He goes, basically, had to sit down with all the staff members and turn it around. He said, turnaround in 1991 was fairly swift. Overnight, we became a much more focused and sober-minded company, which limited our growth to a sustainable rate. We spent carefully and we managed thoughtfully. So my whole goal here is, this go with me here. They limited our growth to a sustainable rate, they spent carefully, and they managed thoughtfully. I just think that's so interesting. Someone who's boosted to the moon and then needed to calm down a little bit. Most of us who've been in business for 5 to 7 to 10 years will have had those times where you might have got an opportunity that might have been handed to you, or you might have pushed hard for an opportunity and got it, and it might have landed you somewhere where you never intended to be. Lots of work with no money, or lots of staff, and the product drops, so you start to lose clients. So the very thing that you worked for, you lost because you sent the wrong person to the right job. And that's the most interesting part, that what we do is we coach numbers. We're coaching numbers and people, right? Like, they're so entwined. So I always sort of laugh when you see those other coaching companies sort of get your hourly rate right, like do it in 3 minutes or whatever. And for us, it's a journey. Like, getting your break-even rate, it's a rate that's completely in flux all of the time. It's as long as you're moving labor and materials, that rate per month, per week, per job will be in flux, and it can be manufactured and manipulated to an extent to within reason. It can be that, and or even like never underprice a job. Like you can quote a job correctly, but you can handle it incorrectly. I can quote $2,000 for 4 PowerPoints, but if I go and send Elodie and Phoenix and Jasper there, untrained, uneducated, no tools. Like, what's this? I got to go to the wholesaler 4 or 5 times. You know, that's an exaggerated example, but you can quote a job correctly and you can handle it incorrectly. So essentially, what you've got, you're left with front costing, which is getting to know your break-even rates, getting to know your numbers back to front and quoting the job well. Then you've got the handling process, and then you've got the reflection process. And all 3 are as important as each other. And as long as you're selling labor and materials, all 3 are always moving. It's like a wheel, just churning. So, all right. So how would you act if your business had to stand the test of time for 100 years? Would you act differently? If there was no turbo focus on psycho growth, if you just needed to be like, hey, this business needs to stand the test of time. And if you were like, okay, sweet, well, I'm just gonna do what the market tells me to do. I'm gonna chase work. It's interesting, the hustle philosophy, the Hasselhoff, the David Hasselhoff. Shout out to the big dog, David Hasselhoff. I'm not sure if he listens, but if he does, reach out to me. Would love to have you on and your sexy body. Anyway, so it's interesting, the Hasselhoff theory. A lot of times you see people hustling for all this work and they're taking baguettes to real estate and they're dropping coffees to people. I'm not against that. But a lot of times it can end you up, like if no one's got any context of you and your business, a lot of times the only thing they can go off is price. So you can do all these letterbox drops and you might land a $5,000 board upgrade that should have been $2,500, and you might get away with that once. And then all of a sudden, at some point, there's an ancient proverb that says, truth stands the test of time, lies are soon exposed. Truth stands the test of time, lies are soon exposed. You can lie once or twice. You can take advantage of someone once or twice, but the 3rd time, you can expect someone to find out. Maybe not the 3rd, maybe the 10th time. Maybe the 20th time. But the more you go about, if you're trying to take advantage of people, firstly, you're not in our target market. You need to go back to, you need to like learn who you are as a person and your place in the community and everything like that. If you're after short-term money, you can expect not to have long-term clients, pretty much. So you either go out and hustle for work and find work through whatever, and you might have a really good month, a really good 6 months, but that might dip down over a 10-year period. Like it might dip down, or you might go and get a whole bunch of work because you're hustling and they've only gone off price and you don't really know your numbers and you get all this work, and all of a sudden, either it's misquoted or it's mishandled because you get all this work, and with all that work becomes all this new staff members. So you get all these new staff members, and now you're in a position where the staff members can't handle the work that I'm putting in front of them. Our old crew could have handled it at that price, but our new crew, it's different. Our new kids on the block are a lot different to our older kids or our existing staff members, whatever. It's such an interesting metric. And not saying nothing good comes of hustling, but a lot of times the work was going to come in more organically in a way. And a lot of times, if you have to hit your goals in a 12-month period, you can be super stressed. But if you've got to hit them in a 5 or 10-year period, you can be like, oh, I'm on the pathway. So if you compared our Sparky Coach goals on a 1-year metric, I'd be super stressed right now. Holy crap, what am I going to do? Increase this and build this and get this and do that, and I'm going to employ a salesperson to call 1,000 people. We don't have a salesperson, actually. I just feel like if someone's trying to sell you the product, they don't know what they're talking about, it's so cooked. You see all these coaching companies, not all of them, but most of them, they have they all get coached by the same coach, basically. If you're wondering why it all looks very similar, it all looks very similar because they're basically all getting coached by the same coach. Or have been in the past. So what generally happens is like, put a salesperson on. So they put a salesperson on and they get like a big factory and it looks really good. And what generally happens is now they've got to get all this revenue before they're even profitable. So what used to be profitable is now no longer profitable or not as profitable as before. And what used to be executed by quality people is now executed by people that are just following a spreadsheet or following a rhyme or reason, or that's like they haven't had that first-hand experience. They're following a formula, and that's incredibly hard to keep the product good when the people teaching the product need to be right on top of the product. I go sideways, but I'll go backwards for a second here. So super interesting. So if I set my Sparky Coach goals, or we set our Sparky Coach goals into a 1 year box, I'm super stressed. Over 10 years, we're on the right pathway. And sometimes it can feel like that in the electrical world, in the electrical business. Sometimes you're looking at it going like, oh, if I've got to achieve this in a year, I'm really stressed. But over 5 years, if you employed 1 tradie apprentice team per year, in 5 years, you've got 5 tradie apprentice teams. If you need to get from 1 million to 5 million revenue tomorrow, you're going to have some issues. If you need to get to 1 million to 5 million revenue within 5 years, it's probably pretty achievable at that point, the compound interest. And what you sort of should be going off this year is you want a market wage. So you want to be able to earn what you could earn for someone else. So when we say market wage, and I get some questions sometimes, the results we put up on Insta, and they're like, oh, why is the wage component so low? I'm paying myself 200 grand. I'm paying myself 300 grand. I'm the big dog. And the wage component is basically, if you saw the market wage component, just as what you could be replaced for by someone else. So if you walked 3 doors down, no pun intended, but if you walked 3 doors down to Voldemort Electrical, Lord Voldemort, if you walked down to there, what would they hire you for? Chances are, if you're on the tools, it's between 100 to 120 grand, plus super, plus a car. And if you're off tools, it's probably between 120 and 150 plus super, plus a car. So that immediately sets the benchmark of a 40-hour week, what we could be earning elsewhere. That's very important. So that becomes our market wage. You got to think, if you're paying yourself really low or nothing in just taking drawings, your net profit might seem actually quite high, because it's like, well, I've got 30% net profit, 25% net profit. Yeah, but if I take the market wage out of that, that might go to 15 to 10 to 5 to 0, whatever. Or you might be paying yourself a whole lot. And now my net profit is going to look really low. Oh, I'm not making the net profit I wanted. Yeah, because you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. Like it's psycho. Like you've eaten the pie and then complaining that there's no pie left in here. Crazy. So how would you act if you weren't in a rush? If you weren't in a rush, if you weren't naive to think you had to achieve everything in 12, if you were creating a business to pass on to your kids, would you act differently? Would you be more considerate? Would you be more considerate about who you worked with and who you worked for and the materials you used? Would you put that extra screw in? On a granular level, would you hang that unit differently? Would you install something differently? Would you install it better? Basically. And on a major level, would you go a bit slower? Because 10 to 20% growth year on year over 20 years, you've got a pretty amazing company in 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So the compound interest of growth. So here's my 4 tips to get the most out of 2026. 4 tips. Here we go. I call it the series parallel method. I'm going to be going over this a lot. Because this has been fresh in my head. There's certain things in business, think of a series parallel circuit, right? There's certain things that go round and round and just never end. And there's certain things that have a start and a finish point. So think round and round, parallel circuit. Think series has a start and end point, like switch downlight, so something like that. So what we want to do, we're threefold in Sparky Coach. We're very simple. We want to make money, we want to build wealth, and we want to be kind. There's no point making money if we're not building wealth, and there's no point making money and building wealth if we're not being kind, and there's no point being kind if we're not making money and building wealth. There's no point being the kindest person in the room without making money. And picture this, I'll go backwards before I go forwards, kind of like that movie with John Travolta. Damn, it's lost me. With Halle Berry in it. It'll come to me at some point. Be kind. Kindness has a hierarchy. Right? The hierarchy of kindness is you want to be kind to yourself, you need to be kind to the business, then you need to be kind to the staff, then the suppliers, then the clients, then the community. So a lot of you in the hierarchy of kindness, your first step of setting goals is the parallel goal that never ends, is you need to treat others as you would be treated, as the trade gods said many, many moons ago. So you need to treat others as you want to be treated, and you are a person too. So if you're not kind to yourself, if you're not looking after yourself, if you're not dialed in yourself, then the onflow of that is going to be relatively terrible. If you're too kind to your staff and clients and suppliers, without being kind to the business first. In other words, specifically staff and client, if you picture it with the client set, if you're quoting jobs, the kindest thing to do for a client is to go the cheapest price. I can do that job for 10 grand. But if the business can't do that job for 10 grand, if the business is going to lose money, then the business needs to go before the clients. Does that make sense to everyone? So the business has to be profitable, and it's expected to be profitable before the staff get paid, before the clients get paid, and before the suppliers get paid. Now, I'm not saying pay and get paid. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying, oh, wait till you get paid to pay. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that the kindness has a hierarchy. You got to be kind to yourself, then kind to the business, then kind to your staff, then kind to suppliers, then kind to the clients, and then you can be kind in the community. If you want to do big things in the community, first and foremost, you can start. You can start doing whatever the hell you want tomorrow. You might, like what 40 does with the 100-hour race, or I can't remember what they do, but they do something that's super cool in the community, brings the community together. They get sponsors and they raise money for families and people who have been through traumatic like illnesses and awareness in the illnesses. Super cool. So, but if you want to give the most to the community, run the sickest business. Run a business that gets a whole lot of money that you can then pass on. Because if the trade gods can get it through you, they'll get it to you. In other words, if you're generous to your staff and your clients and the community, it's probably going to come to you, right? That's really, really important. But the business has to be profitable to flow on effect. Making money. The parallel, never-ending lamb chops song that goes along on a sort of making money sense. You got to close every single week. That never ends. Close every single month. And you want to be hitting a market wage with a net profit between 20 and 35%. So what you need to be doing, that stuff never ends. As long as you're selling labor materials, that's the stuff that's the parallel circuit that goes on and on and on and on. Close a week, close a month. And am I hitting a market wage? Am I hitting a net profit 20? That just goes on. Now, the series part of making money that has a start and end point is I need to release my back-end admin. So a lot of people get stuck. And so you got your parallel goals. And then you've got your series goals. So my parallel goals that never end. I need to close a week, close a month. When I say close a week, I mean are your invoices sent? Have all the jobs being checked for profitability? Have the labor efficiency being checked? Has the open job efficiency being checked? Have I sent my quotes out? Have I spoken to all the staff members I need to? Do I have enough work for the next 3 to 6 months? That's closing the week. Closing the month is like, how'd the month go? Financially only. Now, if we know how the month went and we look for revenue, cost of sales, gross profit, operating expenses, net profit, if you look at that from left to right and you've got an issue with your net profit, you'll be able to find it from left to right somewhere, 100%. And so we look at it. So closing the month and closing the week, they give you the key pivot points where you can sort of change what you're doing, change direction, adapt, adjust, all this kind of stuff. So, but the series part that has a start and end, it might be I need to release my back-end admin. I need to release my front-end admin. I need to improve my job management software. I need to get a job management software. I need to improve how we're handling variations. I need to set out some scripts on here. I need to build a price book. The stuff that has a start and end point. So there's certain things in making money that never end, and there's certain things that have a start and end point that's going to help you make money. So we need to set goals in both. With building wealth, right? So make money, build wealth, be kind. With build wealth, the never-ending goal really is to increase your net worth. Like, that's pretty much the goal of everyone. That's why you're in business, right? So, and with the series that have start and end points, it might be like, set a personal budget, spend less than what I earn, increase super from 12 to 15%. It might be buy a commercial property, buy a personal property, buy an investment property. It might just be get out of personal debt, get out of that credit card debt, get out of that business debt, pay off this at this point. So building wealth we want to increase our net worth all the time. Every year should be increasing year on year on year. But along there's all these micro goals. So every sort of like, the series parallel method of making money, building wealth, and being kind, those things never end. But there's parts of those that you can do to make them better that have a start and end point. So interesting. So point 1 is make money, build wealth, be kind. Set some goals for series and set some goals for parallel. Point number 2 is execute. I said this before. A goal without a plan is just a wish. A goal without a plan is just a wish. You can set the coolest goals ever, but if you've got no plan to get there, you're probably not going to get there, right? You can have all the dreams in the world, all the plans in the world, most optimistic goals, but you need a plan to sort of get there. So we need to execute. How do you execute? You be consistent, be disciplined, and be humble. Be consistent, be disciplined, and be humble. How do you execute something? You sort of just got to do it. There's a point of business, you got to rip and tear and just do it. And your goal for this year to being kind to yourself, it might be, I'm not going to work after hours. I'm going to execute all my stuff within work hours. I'm going to set my plan. I'm going to set my calendar. I'm going to control lots of things are uncontrollable in an electrical business, but I'm going to control what I can control and bring it under wraps. Be consistent, be disciplined, be humble. The coolest thing about execution is that it's like execution is just like, I'm trying to make money, trying to build wealth, trying to be kind, right? So I've got to execute that. Now, point number 3 is set aside some time to reflect. So every month, every week really, you should be setting aside some time to reflect. So we've got our goals. We've got our execution or our plan. Then we've got set aside time to reflect. So how's everything going? Is it realistic? Are you managing your time well? Are you struggling with an element of stress? And maybe that's because you're living with a new weight. You're paying a rent you never paid before. You're paying a mortgage you never paid before. You're living with a baby you never lived with before. You're living with a wife or partner you never lived with before. You're living with more staff than you had yesterday. There's more work coming in than there was before. The inbox is piling up. The back-end admin isn't ending. Are you living with a new weight? Are you managing your time well? And can you pivot? So the reflection time is super interesting to be like, what's working and what's not working? So I've got my goals, some don't end, some do end. I've got my plan or execution. Then I've got my reflection time, which should be weekly, because too many people go through years and years and years and years and never stop time to reflect. And then point number 4 is so interesting, but it's like once we've set our sort of goals, you would say, started to execute, we're reflecting, then point number 4 is what do we keep? What do we change? What do we stop? What do we keep? What do we change? What do we stop? So if something's working, we need to keep it. If something's not working, we've got 2 options: change it or stop it. Great example here. We're doing so much after hours work. You know, it's working, right? But I don't want to keep it. It's working, but I don't want to keep it. And it's like, okay, I need to change or stop. I want to stop doing work after hours. It's killing me. It's killing the family. It's putting so much pressure on me. I'm unproductive at 9 p.m. So I need to change. Do I need to hand over some back-end admin? Do I need to change the way I do things? Do I need to bring someone in the office to help me quote? What do I need to do? Do I either stop it or change it? So there's things that are working. Let's keep going with that. And there's things that aren't working. You got 2 options: stop or change. So when you're goal setting, I would encourage you. You can achieve a whole lot in 5 years, a whole lot in 5 years. You can achieve so much in 5 years. Set some big goals. I'm not against big goals, set some big goals. Once you've got that 5-year plan, let's get into the series parallel method. Let's go like, hey, what goals of these make money, build wealth, be kind? What are never ending? And what can I do month on month, week on week, quarter on quarter to improve my position? If you built 2, a lot of people get overwhelmed with, I've got all this price book stuff to build, all this kind of stuff. If you just build 2 price book items a week for a year, you got 104 items. And if you just build 10 a week, what do you got? 5,000, right? 5,200. That's probably enough. So your price book conundrum is solved within 6 or 12 months because it's like, and imagine that. So sometimes in the goal setting, we think too big and we need to go a bit more granular. It's really interesting. So back to my sort of original point. How would you act? How would you act? Would you do anything differently if your business had to stand the test of time for 100 years? If you had to pass this business down generation to generation, would you take it more seriously? Would you set a greater timeline to achieve your goals? Would you reduce your timeline? What would you do differently? Would you increase your net profit? There's no point handing someone a broken business. If you're going to hand it to someone, hand it over well. hand it over well. Be a good steward of what you've been given, right? You've been given a business, you're in the driver's seat. It's your time. This is your time. This is your time. We need to execute. This is not a joke. This is like, I'm not saying it's life or death, but this is like profit or not profit. Like if it's working, keep it. If it's not working, either change or stop doing what you're doing. But this year, would you treat your business well? Would you treat it with kindness? Would you make a commitment to making money? Would you make a commitment to building wealth or starting your journey to build wealth? Would you make a commitment to the kindness hierarchy? Let's look after ourselves. Let's look after the business. Let's look after our staff. Let's look after our suppliers. Let's look after our clients. Let's look after the community. So pumped to go on this journey with you this year. We're back and we're ripping and tearing and we're super pumped for the year. So thanks for hanging out. Peace. That's a wrap on another podcast. Whatever you're doing, don't be too busy to stop and check if you're making money. And above all else, you know the rules, be kind. See you soon.